Before the story begins, picture a city that survived a disaster, then built a memorial without the names of the people who died saving it. Earth did not send soldiers to demand justice. It sent one memorial architect. She came to design a wall. But when she saw what had been erased, she realized the real monument was not made of stone. It was made of names the powerful hoped no one would say aloud. The monument Earth was not allowed to build. Seren Holt saw the missing word before she saw the city. It was not on the arrival banner. It was not on the temporary memorial wall beside the landing terrace. It was not on the small brass plaques fixed to the water fountains that now ran clear along the public steps of Lorien Vale. The missing word was Earth. Seren stood under the pale morning light of Veyrra, a rebuilt planet outside the solar system, and watched a line of local school children pass between two fountains. Their uniforms were blue and silver. Their teachers guided them past the memorial wall without slowing down. On that wall, a careful inscription thanked all interstellar assistance personnel who aided Veyrra during the Grey Basin crisis. No Earth. No human names. No mention of the nurses, engineers, drivers, welders, cooks, and sanitation workers who had died keeping the planet's water system alive. Seren Holt was not a diplomat. She was not a soldier. She was a memorial architect from Earth, sent to Veyrra to design a small monument for the dead. Her work was supposed to be simple. She would inspect the approved site, review local materials, submit a final drawing, and leave before the final record ceremony, when the Galactic Council would lock the official history of the crisis into the archives. That was the polite version. The real version was colder. If she signed the design placed before her, Earth would be remembered only as a useful blur. The dead would become a category. The monument would stand for centuries without saying who had held the doors open when the poisoned water rose. A local aide waited beside her with a silver tablet in both hands. "Architect Holt," he said, speaking careful Earth English. "Governor Torin is ready to receive you." Seren looked once more at the wall. Does every temporary marker use that wording? The aide hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the security officers at the terrace gate. That wording was recommended for unity. Recommended by whom? The Planetary Recovery Office, with council approval. Seren nodded, but did not answer. She had heard that sentence before, in other places after other disasters. Unity, recovery, stabilization. The words sounded gentle in public, and they were wide enough to hide almost anything. The governor's residence stood above Lorien Vale on a long white ridge. Below it, the city looked healed from a distance. Waterways cut through the streets in clean lines. Market roofs gleamed under fresh polymer sealant. Transport rails moved again. The public towers showed banners of renewal, each one displaying the blue crest of Veyrra beside the silver ring of the Galactic Council. Earth appeared nowhere. Seren followed the aide through a corridor where the walls were polished too smooth. Veyrran architecture favored flowing stone and curved glass. Every surface seemed made to soften the eye. She understood the intention. After a crisis, people wanted the world to stop looking broken. But memorials were different. A memorial that softened too much could become another kind of burial. Governor Male Torin received her in a garden room open to the city's restored canals. He was tall for his species, with narrow shoulders and a calm, well-trained face. His formal robe carried the pale blue of Veyrra's water authority, though he had never worked below the surface in his life. Seren knew that from the briefing. "Architect Holt," he said, "Veyrra welcomes you with gratitude. Governor Torin, we understand Earth has strong feelings about the monument. Earth has names, Governor. Feelings are not the problem." His smile did not move. "Of course. Please sit." A table rose between them. On it, a projection formed a clean model of a public square. It had a low wall of white stone, a reflecting pool, and a single inscription in council standard. The work was elegant. Too elegant. It could have marked a trade treaty, a garden dedication, or the opening of a rail line. Nothing in it knew what had happened at Grey Basin. Torin touched the edge of the projection. The inscription enlarged. "To all interstellar assistance personnel who aided Veyrra in its hour of need." Seren read it once. "Where are the names?" Torin folded his hands. The Council has advised a collective inscription. Where is Earth? Earth's contribution is acknowledged in the Recovery Archive. That is not the same as being on the monument. No, Torrens said. It is not. He did not deny it. That made him more dangerous than a liar. Seren looked at the model again. This monument is not a gray basin. The central square receives more visitors. It is 23 kilometers from the water complex. It is closer to public transit, schools, and civic halls. The people I came to honor did not die in a civic hall. A small silence settled in the room. Torren let it breathe, as if patience itself belonged to his office. Architect Holt, Veyrra is alive because many hands helped us. Local engineers, council specialists, off-world medical units, transport crews, and emergency teams all played a part. If we separate one group from the whole, gratitude may become accusation. Did one group die in a place the official map has renamed? His eyes sharpened for the first time. You are direct. I design memorials. Direct is part of the work. The work, Torrens said, is to help the living continue. The work is also to keep the living honest. He studied her. His expression carried no hatred, only calculation and fatigue. Gray Basin is still politically sensitive. Low-quarter families are angry. Some blame the water authority. Some blame my emergency ministers. Some blame the council. If the monument singles out Earth, people will ask why Earth crews were in the worst zone when our own command teams had withdrawn. That sounds like a question worth answering. It sounds like a question that could break a recovering planet. Seren did not respond at once. There was the first true shape of the resistance. Not simple arrogance. Not only stolen credit. Veyrra's government feared its own people. The council feared the same thing for different reasons. Both wanted a monument broad enough to cover what had happened. Torren lowered his voice. Truth is not always mercy. Seren looked at the clean model on the table. No, she said, but a lie is not healing. By the end of the meeting, Torren had given her permission to visit the central square, inspect stone samples, and submit minor adjustments to surface texture and water flow. He had not given permission to visit Gray Basin. Seren left the residence with the official model copied to her tablet and a formal escort at her side. Ambassador June Arlen met her outside the gate. June was older, sharp-eyed, and dressed in the plain dark suit Earth envoys wore when they wanted no one to mistake dignity for ornament. She walked with Seren along a shaded path where water moved in thin channels beside the stone. That went badly, June said. It went clearly. That is often the same thing here. Seren handed her the tablet. June scanned the inscription and exhaled through her nose. Counselor Savarin arrives tomorrow, June said. He will supervise the final record ceremony. How long before the ceremony? For local days. And after that, the official crisis record becomes binding for all public institutions receiving council recovery funding. Including the monument. Including the monument. Seren stopped near a terrace edge. Below them, Lorien Vale moved like a city trying hard to forget the sound of panic. Clean trams. Open markets. Restored fountains. People buying bread and carrying water without fear. It should have been beautiful. It was beautiful. That made the missing names worse. I need to see Gray Basin, Seren said. June looked toward the city, not at her. They will say no. I'm not asking as an investigator. They will say that is exactly what you are. I'm asking as the architect responsible for the monument. June took a moment. What do you expect to find? The place. The place. The difference between a memorial and a decoration. The ambassador's face softened just enough for Seren to see the human tiredness under the diplomatic armor. I can get you a technical visit, June said. Material inspection. Limited. Access. No extraction of records. Good. It will make Torren angry. He already is. It will make Savarin interested. Seren looked back at the temporary wall near the landing terrace. From this distance, she could not read the inscription. That was almost the point. A vague truth grew smaller the farther one stood from it. Then he should come look too, she said. Gray Basin was below the city, beyond the restored avenues and polished canals. The official route took Seren through new transit tunnels, then down by industrial lift into a district where the air changed. It became colder, damp with mineral residue and old sterilizing agents. The walls lost their graceful Veyrra curves. Down here, everything was functional. Pipes, braces, pressure doors, service ladders, drainage channels. This was where water entered the city, where it had once turned poisonous, and where panic had moved faster than command. This was also where low quarter had been trapped. When the Western Line failed, poisoned water moved toward the lower streets first, and the people there waited for help while officials argued above them. A Veyrra engineer named Lisa Marr led the inspection team. She was young, nervous, and loyal to the recovery office in the way frightened employees were loyal. "We are only authorized to show you the outer stabilization ring," Lisa said. "The interior remains restricted. I need to understand the material history. The approved monument uses quarry stone from the North Ridge. The approved monument is in the wrong place." Lisa lowered her eyes and kept walking. Seren did not press her. Pressure applied to the wrong person became cruelty. Instead, she watched the walls. That was where the first contradiction appeared. A pressure door at the end of the outer ring had been sealed with a fresh council plate. The plate listed it as closed by automatic failsafe during the crisis. Seren stood before it for a long moment. "What is wrong?" Lisa asked. "The burn pattern." The Veyrra engineer looked at the door. The door overheated. The outside did. The inside did not. "Is that important?" "It means someone closed it by hand from this side while the heat was still active beyond it." Lisa said nothing. Seren stepped closer. Near the manual wheel, the metal carried a pattern of corrosion and scorching. The marks were low, at a height comfortable for human arms. The wheel had been replaced, but the wall around it still held the memory of hands. "Who closed this door?" Lisa checked her tablet. "The record says automated containment. The record is wrong. It is the approved record. That is not the same thing." They moved deeper. Seren saw more small betrayals in the material. A ladder had been cut and re-welded with Earth-standard emergency alloy. A rail had lost its human grip tape, but the adhesive ghost remained. A water pump had been polished smooth where an Earth service tag had once been fixed to it. Each detail had the same meaning. Earth workers had been here. They had worked in the crisis zone. Someone had tried to make that work harder to see. By the time they reached the old flow chamber, Seren understood that gray basin had been cleaned, but not healed. Its surfaces had been taught to stop speaking, yet they still remembered in stains and seams. An older Veyrran waited near a maintenance alcove. He wore no official badge. His coat was plain and patched at one sleeve. He had the stillness of someone who had spent too much time near machines that could kill a city if handled badly. Lisa stiffened. "Ording Vali, you are not cleared to be here." "I worked this place before your mother learned water math," he said. Lisa looked toward the security officer at the rear. Seren stepped in first. "I am Seren Holt." "I know." Oren's voice was rough. "Earth sent a builder for the dead. A memorial architect. Same thing if you build it right." Lisa whispered, "We should continue." Seren did not move. "Did you work during the Gray Basin crisis?" Oren looked at the sealed door behind her. "I was in pressure control when low quarter alarms started." Low quarter was the first civilian district affected. It was the first they admitted was affected. His mouth tightened. "The poison was in the Western Line before dawn. We sent alerts. The ministers delayed the public warning because the capital summit was still in session. The security officer shifted. Oren kept going because old guilt can become stronger than fear. When pressure climbed, the local command closed the upper gates to protect Lorien Vale. The council team pulled back to the safe control floor. They said they needed authorization. Maybe they did. Maybe they wanted someone else to own the failure. And Earth. They came in through the service road. Lisa closed her eyes. Oren turned to Seren fully. Not soldiers. Not admirals. Workers. Nurses. Drivers. Water people. They had portable filters, field stretchers, old transit crawlers, and a cook who shouted at everyone to drink before they collapsed. "Owen Pike," Seren said, remembering one name from the preliminary casualty list. Oren's eyes changed. "You know him?" "I know his name. That is more than our wall gives him." The words landed between them. Seren asked quietly, "What did the Earth teams ask when they arrived?" Oren looked down the tunnel, as if the old voices might still be waiting there. They did not ask who owned the planet. They asked where the breathing people were. No one spoke after that. A security chime sounded from the officer's wrist. He listened, then faced Seren. "The inspection is complete." "It is not. It is complete by order of the recovery office." Seren looked at Oren. His face told her enough. The old man had taken a risk by saying what he had said. If she forced more now, she might only burn him. She nodded once. As they walked back, she slowed near a service alcove stacked with old panels. One panel lay half behind a broken filter case. Its edge showed a faded red line used by Earth emergency crews to mark mobile triage stations. Seren crouched, as if checking stone texture. Behind the panel, wedged into a maintenance slot, was a thin data wafer wrapped in cracked seal tape. A data wafer could hold maintenance records, emergency times, and old machine logs. If it had survived the crisis, it might show what the official record had tried to smooth away. She did not take it. Not yet. Instead, she looked at Lisa. The young engineer was staring at the wafer too. For a moment, neither woman moved. Then Lisa turned her body, slightly, blocking the security officer's view. "Stone dust gathers in that alcove," Lisa said loudly. "It is not structurally relevant." Seren slipped the wafer into her field case. "Thank you," she said. Lisa did not answer. Back at the surface, Counselor Savarin was waiting beside the transport platform. He was smaller than Seren expected, with silver skin that held the light like frosted glass. His robe was dark green, the color of the Council's public memory division. He carried no guards close enough to seem afraid. Powerful people often preferred their force hidden. "Architect Holt," he said, "you have had a long morning." "Counselor Vane." "I was told you were inspecting stone." "I was inspecting memory." A faint smile touched his face. "That is a dangerous material. It shifts under pressure. Only when someone applies pressure. Or when too much truth is placed on it too quickly." Seren studied him. Savarin had the kind of voice that made control sound like compassion. "I have reviewed Earth's monument request," he said. "Your government was granted design access, not investigative authority. I found inconsistencies in the approved record. You found old damage in an industrial site after a planetary disaster. I found Earth equipment with identifying marks removed. Many off-world units left materials behind. During recovery, labels were removed to prevent ownership disputes. I found a manual containment door listed as automatic. Automated systems often require manual overrides. I found a witness." Now his smile disappeared. "Veyrra has many witnesses, Architect Holt. Most of them want to live without being turned into weapons. Truth is not a weapon because it can hurt power. No, but truth can become a blade in the hands of grief." Seren closed her field case. "Is that why the dead have no names?" He watched her for a careful moment. "The final record ceremony will bring closure to Veyrra. The Council expects Earth to honor the process. Earth buried people here. Earth participated in a joint recovery. Earth stayed when command withdrew." Savarin's eyes sharpened. "Be careful," he said softly. "Accusations against Council. Emergency command require formal standing. A memorial architect does not have it. A memorial architect has standing over the truth of a monument. Then stay with the monument." "I'm trying to." He stepped closer, still polite, still calm. "If Earth continues to violate the terms of access, the Council may suspend the project. No wall, no inscription, no public acknowledgement at all. I would regret that outcome." "No," Seren said. "You would use it." For the first time, something like irritation crossed his face. That vanished. "4 days, Architect Holt. Do not spend them making the dead useful to your anger." Seren looked past him toward Lorien Vale, where fountains ran because someone had stayed in the dark under the city. "The dead are already being used," she said. "I'm trying to give them back their names." The data wafer did not open in the embassy's main system. That was the first sign it mattered. Earth's embassy on Veyrra occupied 3 floors of a narrow building between trade offices and recovery agencies. It had reinforced doors, plain carpets, and too many rooms designed for quiet arguments. Ambassador June Arlen brought Seren to a secure archive cell and shut the door behind them. "Where did you get it?" June asked. "Gray Basin. That is not an answer I can protect you with." It was hidden near an old triage panel. June took the wafer and held it under a scanner. "If this contains restricted council recovery data, they can claim we stole it. Then do not open it." June looked at her. Seren held the look. "I am serious." "Are you?" "I will not let Earth's embassy be accused because I pocketed a thing from a wall. You were not alone. If Veyrra staff helped you, they will be in danger too." "I know." June set the wafer down. "Then what do you want?" "A legal way to read what the dead left behind." The ambassador gave a small, tired laugh. "That sentence is why diplomats drink." She called in a human archive specialist named Paul Nadir, who had the careful hands of a surgeon and the permanent expression of a man who hated surprises. It took him 3 hours to recover the wafer without connecting it to the embassy network. Seren waited. Through each hour, reviewing the approved monument model until the white square on the screen began to look obscene. I asked Pauline back. "It is not a full report," he said. "It is a maintenance dump. Pressure logs, transit times, emergency channel fragments, some personnel tags. Much of it is corrupted. Enough to compare with the official record?" June asked. "Enough to make someone nervous." They built the timeline on the wall. At first it looked like scattered technical noise. Valve closures, pressure spikes, filter collapses, transit crawler routes, emergency medical check-ins. Then Seren began marking the points where human crews appeared. Earth Transit Unit entering low quarter. Earth Water Team cutting into the Western Line. Earth Field Clinic opening at Service Tunnel 7. Earth Driver Mina Shore making the first evacuation run. Earth Engineer Caleb Rusk initiating the manual lock sequence. Earth Nurse Tessa Ward requesting more oxygen packs. The pattern became clear slowly, then all at once. The official council report placed the authorization for civilian evacuation almost 1 hour after those movements began. Seren stood before the timeline and felt the room narrow. The heart of the lie was simple now. Earth had started saving people first. Council Command had written the record as if permission came first. June saw it too. "Say it," the ambassador said. "The report reverses the rescue." Paul Nadir rubbed his face. "That is one way to phrase it. It says Council Command ordered the evacuation, then Earth assisted. But Earth units were already moving civilians before the order existed." June's jaw tightened. "And if the order came after the rescue was underway," Seren said, "then the monument is not only vague. It is false." Paul looked at the door. "We need to be careful. These logs came from an unauthorized wafer." "They match the burn patterns," Seren said. "Burn patterns do not win hearings. People do." June knew what she meant. "Oren Vale," the ambassador said. Seren nodded. He saw the withdrawal. He is a Veyrran citizen. If we push him, Torin can accuse Earth of manipulating a local witness. If we do not, Savarun will make him. Sign something first. June's face hardened. "You think they will?" "I think they already know he spoke to me." The next morning, Governor Torin invited Seren to a private meeting at the Old Water Ministry, not the residence. That choice was deliberate. The ministry had been built before the crisis, when Veyrra believed water management was a civic triumph instead of a political wound. Its lower hall smelled faintly of mineral sealant and damp stone. Portraits of past ministers lined the walls, each one painted beside rivers and reservoirs. Torin waited in a side chamber with no aides. "You want a gray basin," he said. "You allowed a technical visit. You found a man who has carried too much guilt for too long." Oren Vale told the truth. Oren Vale lost a nephew in the low quarter panic. His memory is not neutral. Neither is your inscription. Torin looked older here. Away from the garden room, away from polished sunlight, his robe seemed too formal for his shoulders. "Do you think I do not know what was lost?" he asked. "I think you know exactly what was lost. That is why you are afraid of naming it." His hand tightened on the back of a chair. Low quarter almost tore this government apart after the crisis. They believed we abandoned them. Did you? We made a triage decision with incomplete information. That is not an answer. It is the only kind leaders get during collapse. Seren said nothing. Torrin turned toward the window. From there, they could see the western canals, restored and busy. When the western line failed, we had minutes. If the central gates opened too early, poison water could have reached the Capitol Hospital, the emergency archive, and the shelters under the council district. My ministers chose to hold the upper gates until we understood the spread. People in low quarter were still inside. Yes. The word was quiet. Earth went in. Yes. And you want their names removed because those names prove what your government did not do. Torrin turned back. His face had lost all softness. I want my planet to survive the truth. Your planet survived the poison. It can survive an inscription. You do not know that. I know a lie will not protect you forever. He walked to the table and activated a small projection. It showed a revised inscription. One line had been added under the collective text. With gratitude for the contribution of Earth. Seren read it. This would appear in the digital archive in the ceremony program. Torrin said, not on a main wall, but it is more than Sovereign wants. It is less than the dead deserve. It is what I can give without starting a public rupture. You are offering me a footnote. I am offering you something that survives. Seren thought of Tessa Ward, whose voice she had not yet heard, but whose name already sat on the casualty list like a sealed door. She thought of Caleb Rusk turning a hot wheel by hand. She thought of Mina Shore driving in a low quarter before anyone authorized rescue. A false monument is not memory, Seren said. It is a second burial. Torrin flinched. For a second, she regretted the cruelty of it. Then he said, and a perfect truth can become a match in a room full of fuel. Then stop filling the room with lies. He closed the projection. When Seren returned to the embassy, June was waiting with bad news. Oren Vale has been summoned. Seren stopped in the doorway. By whom? The Planetary Recovery Office, with council observers. A closed clarification interview. They want a statement before the ceremony. When? Now. Seren's first impulse was movement. Go there. Stop it. Put herself between the old man and the machine built to grind his memory into an approved sentence. June blocked the door before she could step through. Think. There is no time. Exactly. That is why they chose now. They will make him sign. They will try. If he signs, they will use him at the ceremony. Yes. Seren forced herself to breathe. What can we do legally? Request observer status. Will they grant it? No. Can Earth file an objection? Yes, but it may not stop the interview. Then file it. June's eyes searched her face. That will move this out of Veyrra's recovery office and into council procedure. Good. Not good. It means Sovereign can call a hearing and frame you as the cause of instability. Let him. Seren, a council hearing is not a design review. They can suspend the monument. They can restrict Earth access. They can brand this entire project as political interference. If we do nothing, they win quietly. June held her gaze. Then she stepped aside. I will file. The objection went out within the hour. Sovereign answered faster than anyone expected. He did not cancel Oren's interview. He escalated the matter. A preliminary hearing would be held before the final record ceremony. Earth would be required to explain why its architect had exceeded design authority, interfered with a local witness, and challenged an approved stabilization record. Seren read the notice twice. The words were clean. They accused without raising their voice. June stood across the table. You understand what this is? Yes. He is moving you from Gray Basin to a place he controls. Yes. He will make the issue your conduct, not the dead. Then I need to make the room look at the dead. Ow! Seren looked at the approved model, still glowing on her tablet. The empty wall, the polished pool, the beautiful nothing. I will give them exactly what they approved. That evening, June brought her a sealed packet from Earth. It came through family channels, the ambassador said. I held it because I was not sure when to give it to you. Seren took the packet. What is it? A voice file. From the Ward family. Seren's hand tightened. Tessa Ward. June nodded. Field nurse. Gray Basin. Her recorder survived in a damaged medical kit. Earth Recovery held it until the family gave permission for memorial use. Seren sat down before opening it. The file was short. Static came first, then alarms in the background, then a woman's voice, tired but steady. Keep moving. Do not stop at the door. If you can hear me, follow the blue lamps. Children and elders first. Do not look back. We will hold the seal until the last transport leaves. A pause. A cough. Another alarm. Tell the driver the Western line is still open. Tell her she has 8 minutes if she trusts the lower road. We will hold. The file ended. No speech about sacrifice. No declaration of heroism. Just work. Just a woman doing a job. While the world behind her tried to collapse. Seren sat very still. June said nothing. After a long moment, Seren replayed the file. The second time, she heard more. The tremor in Tessa's breathing. The way she avoided saying she might not leave. The calm she gave to people who had none left. Seren closed the file. How many names do we have confirmed? June answered softly. 186. Huh. How many professions? Dozens. I need all of them. For the hearing? For the monument. The council has not approved a new monument. No, Seren said. But they approved an empty one. Seren did not sleep much after that. She set the approved model on one side of the work table and opened a blank design field on the other. Between them lay the names June had gathered. They were not arranged neatly at first. They came from casualty notices, damaged medical tags, family letters, old shift rosters, and fragments of Veyrra maintenance logs. Some names had middle initials. Some had none. Some professions were written differently depending on who had recorded them. Field nurse, emergency nurse, medical lead, water systems engineer, pump specialist, pressure mechanic. To a careless archive, those differences were administrative noise. To Seren, they were the edge of a life. Her first teacher in memorial design had told her that a monument failed when it made the dead easier to forget. That teacher had been a quiet man named Aaron Bell, an Earth recovery architect who had worked on flood walls, station cemeteries, and disaster gardens across 3 systems. He had not died on Veyrra, but many of the people who did had trained under the same recovery program he helped build. He used to tell Seren that names were not decoration. A name was a claim against disappearance. She heard his voice as she worked. A monument is not built for the dead to see. It is built so the living cannot pretend they never existed. Seren did not put that sentence in the model. It was too easy, too beautiful, too close to comfort. Instead, she built the approved emptiness exactly as the council had requested. She used the same proportions, the same smooth path, the same shallow water, the same blank wall. Then she hid the names where the council wanted them. Under the stone. Not gone. Not visible. Dependent on light controlled from outside. It was the most honest, dishonest monument she had ever made. Near dawn, June entered the workroom carrying 2 cups of bitter embassy coffee. You look terrible, the ambassador said. That is a professional assessment. It is a diplomatic warning. Seren accepted the cup. June studied the model and understood at once. This is cruel. Yes. Good. Seren looked up. June's face was tired, but there was no softness in it now. I have spent 30 years watching council language turn courage into process, June said. They do not erase people by denying everything. They erase them by making every sentence too polite to hold a body. Seren touched the light control. The names appeared, faint and trapped. Will Earth support this? Earth sent you because a normal envoy would have argued over wording. You are arguing over reality. That is not an answer. June took a long sip of coffee. Earth will not threaten Veyrra. Earth will not threaten the council. But if the council asks whether this model represents our objection, I will say yes. That may cost you. Seren, I am an ambassador. If the best I can do is attend receptions while our dead are renamed into furniture, I have chosen the wrong profession. For the first time since arriving on Veyrra, Seren almost laughed. The sound never quite came out. Instead, she looked at the names beneath the stone and kept working. Before the hearing, Seren made one more move. He released a short advisory to the delegates, not to the public. June obtained a copy from a sympathetic clerk on Marrow's stand. It described Seren as an emotionally compromised design specialist acting outside her technical mandate. It noted that Earth had a cultural habit of individualizing collective events and warned that human mourning practices could misread stabilization language as hostility. Seren read the advisory in the transport lift on the way to the orbital platform. She did not react at first. June did. That is a polite way of calling us primitive. It is a polite way of saying names are a human problem, Seren said. Will you answer it? Not directly. You should. No. If I defend human grief as a cultural preference, he wins. This is not about Earth being sentimental. This is about whether a record can call a nurse an aide after she died doing nursing work. June smiled faintly. You are hard to push where people expect. Only because I am usually standing somewhere else. The lift rose through Veyrra's upper atmosphere. Clouds thinned below them. Lorien Vale became a pale web of canals and towers. Somewhere beneath that web, great basin waited under stone and water. Low quarters spread west of it, rebuilt but not comforted. Seren watched the planet fall away. She did not feel larger above it. She felt more responsible. From orbit, wounds became invisible. That was why so many decisions sounded cleaner up here. Remember, June said, Seren will try to make this about procedure. It is about procedure. June glanced at her. Procedure is how they did it, Seren said. They did not need hatred. They needed forms. The hearing chamber was not on Veyrra. That was Seren's next advantage. The Galaxy Council convened the emergency session on a neutral orbital platform above the planet, far enough from Lorien Vale to make grief feel procedural. The chamber was circular, tiered, and bright without warmth. Delegates from several member worlds appeared in person. Others joined through remote projection. Veyrra's crest hovered beside the council seal. Earth's smaller blue and white emblem sat low on the display wall, almost an afterthought. Seren arrived carrying a narrow case. Ambassador June Arlen walked beside her but did not carry the case. That mattered. Seren wanted the room to understand that the object was hers, the work was hers, and the responsibility was hers. Seren stood at the center dais, already speaking to a clerk. Governor Torin sat at the Veyrra station, his face controlled. He did not look like a man who hated her. He looked like a man hoping she would fail cleanly. The presiding delegate called the session to order. Subject: Earth Memorial Access and Veyrra Historical Stabilization Record. There it was again. Stabilization. A word that sounded like medicine while it hit a blade. Seren spoke first. His voice filled the chamber with quiet reason. The Council honors all lives lost during the Great Basin Crisis. This hearing is not a debate over gratitude. It is a review of process. Earth was granted access to design a memorial structure within agreed public language. Instead, its appointed architect entered restricted sites, obtained unauthorized materials, approached local witnesses, and challenged a fragile recovery record days before final stabilization. He turned slightly, allowing the chamber to see his calm profile. Veyrra survived a planetary trauma. Public memory must help the living rebuild. If every emergency record is reopened by foreign grief, then no world can recover. Historical stabilization exists because truth without structure can become chaos. Several delegates murmured approval. Seren listened without expression. Seren was good. He did not sound like a man burying names. He sounded like a man protecting peace. Governor Torin spoke next. He did not deny Earth's help. He praised it. That was the second blade. Earth personnel acted with courage during the crisis, he said. Veyrra remains grateful. But this was a multi-world operation. To elevate one participant above all others risks reopening wounds among our own districts. Some communities still believe they were abandoned. Some still accuse emergency leaders of deliberate neglect. A collective monument gives us a path forward. He looked at Seren then. I ask Earth not to turn remembrance into judgment. When her turn came, Seren stood and placed the case on the central table. She did not open it. My name is Seren Holt, she said. I am a memorial architect from Earth. I was sent to Veyrra to design a monument for Earth personnel who died during the Great Basin Crisis. I am not here to punish Veyrra. I am not here to demand worship for Earth. I am here because the approved monument cannot truthfully remember the dead. Seren rose slightly. The architect's statement already assumes conclusions not accepted into record. The presiding delegate looked at Seren. Stay within. Scope. I will, Seren said. My scope is the monument. She opened the case. Inside was a scale model. At first, it looked like surrender. A white square. A low blank wall. A narrow pool with no markings. A clean path through the center. No earth emblem. No human names. No basin. No professions. No datas. No marks of fire or water or work. The chamber grew quiet, confused by its own expectation. Seren activated the model. It expanded in light above the table, large enough for the delegates to see the blank wall turning slowly. This, she said, is the monument built according to the language approved by Veyrra and the Council. Seren watched her carefully now. It is balanced, Seren said. It is peaceful. It accuses no one. It names no one. It asks nothing of the living except that they pass through it and feel briefly grateful in no particular direction. A few delegates shifted. Seren stepped beside the projected wall. It is also false. Scifi. Presiding delegate, this is rhetoric. No, Seren said. It is design analysis. The presiding delegate raised one hand. Let her continue briefly. Seren touched the projection. This wall is blank because the approved inscription removes Earth. This pool reflects nothing because the approved record removes Gray Basin. This path has no point of origin because the approved history reverses the order of rescue. She looked around the chamber, so every delegate had to hold the point. In this monument, no one chooses, no one stays, no one fails, and no one dies with a name. She turned toward Seren. This is not unity. It is disappearance made attractive. The chamber was silent now in a different way. Seren pressed a second control. Light rose from beneath the model's blank stone. Names appeared under the surface. Not on top. Not yet allowed to breathe in public. They glowed from below, trapped in a transparent layer like something buried under ice. Tessa Ward. Caleb Rusk. Mina Shore. Owen Pike. One name after another. Too many to read at once. Beside each name appeared a profession. Field nurse, water systems engineer, transit driver, field cook, structural welder, sanitation worker, filter, technician, emergency medic, power line mechanic. Seren let the room look. This is how the approved record remembers them, she said. Invisible, useful, buried under polished stone. Then she turned off the light. The names vanished. A sound moved through the chamber. Not outrage. Not yet. Something smaller and more dangerous. Recognition. Seren let the silence hold. This is what history becomes when power controls the light. Seren's face hardened. You are manipulating grief. I'm showing the Council its own design. You obtain names through disputed channels. These names come from Earth casualty notifications, Veyrra medical tags, Gray Basin maintenance logs, and family releases. Unverified. Seren nodded once. Then let us verify them. She opened the evidence sequence. She did not flood the room. She knew listeners could drown in data. She gave them 4 stones to stand on. First, the timeline. Official record says Council Command authorized evacuation at local hour 9:16. Earth Transit Unit records show Mina Shore entered low quarter at local hour 8:24. That was 52 minutes earlier. The display showed the 2 times. Second, the map. Official record labels this area Sector 9 Stabilization Zone. Veyrran pre-crisis maps and Gray Basin maintenance layers identify it as the western low quarter intake corridor. This is where civilians were trapped. Third, the profession edits. Council archival draft classifies Tessa Ward as temporary biological aid. Earth and Veyrran field tags identify her as a nurse. Caleb Rusk is listed as maintenance labor. He was the water systems engineer who initiated the manual seal at Gate 7. Owen Pike is listed as food distribution assistant. He ran the hydration station that kept evacuation crews standing. Fourth, the voice. Seren hesitated before playing it. This was not a weapon. It was a person. Then she let Tessa Ward speak. Keep moving. Do not stop at the door. If you can hear me, follow the blue lamps. Children and elders first. Do not look back. We will hold the seal until the last transport leaves. The voice crossed the chamber without drama. That made it worse. Tessa did not ask to be remembered. She did not accuse. She simply stayed. When the file ended, no one spoke for several seconds. Then Seren said, very quietly, "A single field recording does not establish command responsibility." Seren turned to him. "No, it establishes presence. It establishes choice. It establishes that when the approved record calls her temporary aid, the record is not only incomplete, it is degrading the work she died doing." "Careful," Seren said. Seren looked around the chamber. "You do not have to call the Earth workers heroes, but you do not get to call them nothing." The words did not land like a shout. They landed like a door closing. Governor Torin lowered his eyes. Seren remained standing, but his control had lost its ease. A delegate from Marrow Stand, a small ocean world with little influence in council politics, raised her hand. "Presiding delegate," she said, "I request a delay of the final record ceremony until the Great Basin source data can be reviewed." Seren turned sharply. "This is unnecessary. The ceremony is administrative." "Then a delay should not harm the truth," the Marrow delegate said. Another delegate joined. Then another. Not many. Not enough for victory, but enough to crack the surface. The presiding delegate conferred with clerks. Seren spoke in low tones. Torin sat motionless. At last, the presiding delegate announced that the final record ceremony would be suspended for 48 local hours pending review of contested evidence. No one applauded. Seren did not smile. The hearing ended with the council still intact, the monument still unapproved, and the dead still not carved into stone. But the lie had lost its silence. That night, the model appeared on Veyrra's public feeds. No one in Earth's embassy had released it. Seren knew June had not. Seren would not have. Torin certainly would not. Someone in the hearing chamber had decided the empty monument should be seen. The leak changed the ground under everyone. Seren tried to contain it by calling the model an unauthorized emotional exhibit. That phrase lasted less than an hour before low-quarter feeds began repeating it with anger. Workers posted pictures of their own hands beside repaired pumps and asked whether their lives would become unauthorized if the council found them inconvenient. Nurses from Veyrra's Western clinics posted the word aid beside pictures of broken medical carts and asked which title made a person worth naming. Transport drivers painted blue lamps on their doors. By the second day, the phrase "control the light" appeared on walls near the lower canals. Governor Torin ordered the paint removed. More appeared. Seren did not celebrate it. Public anger could save truth, but could also burn people who had already suffered enough. She spent much of that day answering messages from Veyrran families through the embassy filter. She asked for facts, not slogans. Time, place, description, what was heard, what was seen. She refused to let their testimony become a mob. That restraint mattered. When council reviewers examined the first batch of public statements, they found not a riot of accusation, but a pattern of memory. Different families, different streets, same blue lamps. Same lower road. Same human driver. Same nurse at the seal. Same cook handing out water packs near Tunnel 7. The official record had been smooth. The living record had texture. By morning, low quarter had begun to answer. The first message came from a woman named Anselvar, who recorded herself standing beside a restored water pump with 2 children at her knees. She said a human nurse with a torn sleeve had led her family through blue emergency lamps. She did not know the nurse's name then. Now she thought it might be Tessa Ward. The second came from a mechanic who had worked the lower road. He remembered a human driver who kept taking the same cracked transit crawler back in a low quarter after local operators were ordered to stop. He described her voice, her broken helmet, the way she cursed when the crawler stalled and then laughed so the passengers would not panic. Her name, Seren knew, was Mina Shore. The third came from a Veyrran kitchen worker who remembered Owen Pike. He said the human cook had bullied exhausted crews into drinking water, eating salt packs, and returning to work in rotations. Owen had not saved a valve or driven a crawler. He had kept the people who did those things from collapsing. By midday, the messages became a flood. Not all of them were precise. Memory after trauma was messy. Some names blurred. Sometimes were wrong. Some stories contradicted small details. But together they did something no official record could stop. They returned the dead to the mouths of the living. Governor Torin addressed Veyrra that evening. Seren watched from the embassy with June beside her. Torin looked smaller on public broadcast than he had in private rooms. Veyrra owes its survival to many, he began. June muttered, careful. Torin paused. Then he did something Seren had not expected. He looked away from the prepared text. Veyrra also owes truth to the people who died on our soil. I believe that softening the record would protect this planet from division. I still fear what anger can do to a recovering world. But I can no longer say that silence is peace. Seren did not forgive him in that moment. Forgiveness was not hers to grant. But she recognized the cost of what he had just done. He confirmed the review. He confirmed that the monument language would be reopened. He did not confess everything. He did not name every failure. But he broke the public seal of denial. Seren responded with a formal proposal the next morning. It was exactly what Seren expected from him. The council would allow the phrase, including personnel from Earth, to appear in the digital appendix of the monument record. The physical inscription would remain collective to preserve unity. Individual names could be stored in a searchable archive attached to the monument's visitor system. June read the proposal and swore softly. Seren read it twice. It is a prettier burial, she said. You can reject it. I will. They may say you are unreasonable. They already have. At the final review session, Seren did not bother sounding warm. Architect Holt, the council has made a generous accommodation. Earth will be named in the official appendix. The individuals you list will be preserved in the digital record. This respects both memory and stability. Seren stood across from him with her hands folded. No. A flicker of anger passed over his face. No. This is not a negotiation between equals. That is the first honest sentence you have said to me. June shifted beside her, but Seren continued. Earth requires 3 corrections. Earth requires... Yes. The monument will name Earth on the physical wall. It will list the confirmed human dead by name. It will identify their professions accurately. Seren's voice cooled. And if the council refuses? Then Earth will publish the full casualty list, the altered profession tables, the evacuation timeline, the Great Basin maps, and the hearing model as a memorial archive independent of council recognition. You would fracture Veyrra's recovery. No, we would refuse to let recovery mean erasure. Your government approved that threat? Seren looked to June. The ambassador stepped forward. Earth approved the truth, June said. The forum is still open. Seren looked from one human to the other. There was no fleet behind them. No weapon. No threat of blockade. Only a list of workers, a damaged recording, a model that made absence visible, and a growing crowd of Veyrran citizens who had begun saying names out loud. Power could resist anger. It had more trouble resisting shame that other people had learned to repeat. The council revised the decision before sunset. It did not apologize in the way Earth wanted. It did not condemn historical stabilization. It did not punish Seren. Institutions rarely cut their own hands in public. But it authorized the monument to be moved to Grey Basin. It authorized Earth to be named. It authorized the confirmed dead to be carved into the physical wall. It authorized professions. It authorized one line of historical correction, argued over for 4 hours until the words were plain enough to matter. Earth personnel initiated civilian evacuation and critical water containment before formal council authorization was issued. Seren read that sentence alone in the embassy archive cell. It was not poetry. It was not justice entire. But it returned the order of events to the world. Sometimes history began its repair not with beauty, but with sequence. The decision also carried a warning in its final paragraph. The council stated that this exception did not weaken historical stabilization as a general policy. It said the Grey Basin correction had been granted because of unusual evidentiary conflict, not because Earth had proven any wider flaw in council memory practice. Seren had protected the machine even while surrendering one gear. June read that paragraph with disgust. They're making sure no one else uses this too easily. Of course, Seren said. You expected it. I expected them to save the tool. Does that make the victory smaller? Seren looked at the corrected sentence again. Earth personnel initiated civilian evacuation and critical water containment before formal council authorization was issued. No, she said. It makes the next fight clearer. June studied her for a moment. You're not going to become a diplomat, are you? No. Good. You would be unbearable. Seren allowed herself a small smile. Then she sent the correction to the ward, Rusk, Shore, Pike, and other families who had waited on Earth for language that did not reduce their dead to assistance personnel. Some replies came back within minutes. Others did not. Seren understood both. Grief did not always answer when called. Sometimes it only sat with a new fact and learned how to breathe around it. The basin wall took 8 local weeks to build. Seren stayed for all of them. The council would have preferred a faster project, something modular, clean, and easy to unveil. Seren refused. The monument had to use material from Gray Basin, stone from the old pressure hall, metal from retired water braces, glass made with mineral residue from the restored line. The living city had to carry the place where the dead had stood. Lisa Marr helped her choose the first stone. The young engineer no longer avoided Seren's eyes. My supervisor says I should not be seen here too often, Lisa said. Will that harm you? Maybe, but my father was from low quarter. I should have looked harder at the records. You helped me in the tunnel. I looked away while you stole evidence. Seren almost smiled. I inspected material. Yes, Lisa said, very thoroughly. Orenvale came every few days, sometimes to advise, sometimes just to sit near the wall foundation. He never called himself brave. He said brave people were the ones who acted before they had time to become ashamed. One afternoon, Seren found him standing where Gate 7 had been. Caleb Russ closed it here? She asked. Orr nodded. The heat warning had already gone red. We told him the wheel would burn through his gloves. He said he had 2 hands and the city had 1 water line. Then he turned it anyway. Seren looked at the new stone waiting to be set. He had family on Earth. Most people do. His sister asked if he was afraid. What did you tell her? The truth. I told her he was busy. Oren gave a sad, quiet laugh. That sounds right. During the construction weeks, Seren received one official message from Seren. It was only 4 sentences long. He wrote that the council regretted the adversarial tone of the process. He wrote that future memorial disputes should remain within approved diplomatic channels. He wrote that public trust required restraint from all member worlds. He did not write the names of the dead. Seren drafted 3 replies and deleted all of them. In the end, she sent 1 sentence. Public trust also requires that public records tell the truth. He did not answer. That silence suited him. It also suited her. Not every argument needed to end with the other side admitting defeat. Sometimes it was enough to force them to carry the sentence they had refused to say. The names were carved in plain text. No ranks first. No hierarchy of glory. Seren arranged them by the sequence of their final confirmed actions, because that was how the crisis had unfolded. A driver who made the first evacuation run appeared before a senior engineer who arrived later. A cook appeared between 2 medical workers because his station had kept both crews alive at that hour. Some officials objected. Seren did not move a name. Beside each name was a profession. Not softened, not lowered, not dressed up. Field nurse, transit driver, water systems engineer, structural welder, field cook, sanitation worker, filter technician, emergency medic, power mechanic, logistics coordinator. People stopped by during construction and read the unfinished wall. At first they read silently. Then little by little they read aloud. She kept no copy of the first blank model in the public archive. The council had already seen it. The families did not need to. They deserved the wall that named their people, not the ghost of the wall that almost erased them. The opening ceremony was smaller than the council wanted and larger than Torrin feared. It took place at Gray Basin, not in the central square. The old industrial district had been cleaned enough for visitors, but not polished into false innocence. Some pipes remained exposed. The sealed pressure door stood behind glass, its burn marks preserved. The water channel through the monument carried a narrow stream from the restored western line, clear and cold. The Galactic Council sent a secondary delegation. Seren did not attend. Governor Torin came. Ambassador June Arlen came. Families from Earth watched through live transmission, their faces appearing on small screens set respectfully along the side path. Seren stood near the back. June found her there. You should be closer. No, you designed it. They died. June accepted that. Governor Torin gave the first speech. It was brief. Seren had reviewed it and cut half the soft phrases. Veyrra stands here because others stood here when we could not, he said. Some were born on this planet. Some were born under Earth's sun. We name them today because gratitude without truth is too small for what they gave. It was not perfect. It was enough to begin. Then the names were read, not by officials. Seren had insisted on that. Ansel Var stepped forward first, holding the hands of her children. Her voice trembled when she read Tessa Ward's name, but it did not break. She said field nurse slowly, as if returning the words to their rightful shape. A mechanic from Low Quarter read Caleb Rusk's name. He touched the wall after saying water systems engineer. A former transit operator read Mina Shore's name and laughed once through tears when he reached transit driver, because he remembered her shouting at a stalled machine like it had personally insulted her. A kitchen worker read Owen Pike's name. He added nothing, because Seren had asked them not to turn the reading into speeches. The names had to stand. One by one, the living gave sound back to the dead. The ceremony lasted longer than planned. No one left. When the final name was read, the water channel opened fully. Clear water moved through the center of the basin wall, past the carved names, and into the restored line feeding Low Quarter. Seren watched it flow. She did not feel triumph the way stories often promised. She felt tired. She felt the weight of what had not been fixed. Sovereigns still had power. Historical stabilization still existed. The council would still choose comfort over truth whenever no one stopped it. But one wall now stood in the right place. One record had been corrected. 186 human dead had been returned from category to name. Oren Vale came to stand beside her. You built it right, he said. Seren looked at the wall. No, she said. They did. He nodded, accepting the correction. Across the basin, Governor Torin stood alone, watching Low Quarter families touch the names. He did not come to ask forgiveness. That was wise. Some debts could not be cleared by ceremony. June approached with a message tablet. Earth families are sending responses, she said. Later, there's one you should see. Seren almost refused. Then she took the tablet. It was from Caleb Rusk's sister. Only one line. Thank you for putting him where he stayed. Seren read it twice. The water moved softly through stone. Behind her, a child asked a parent what Earth was like. The parent answered that Earth was far away, blue in old pictures, and full of people who remembered names. Seren closed her eyes for a moment. That was not true of every human. No civilization deserved to be polished into myth. Humans forgot, lied, failed, and looked away like anyone else. But sometimes, when pushed low enough, they reached for the names of ordinary people and held them up until power had to look. That was the part the council had misjudged. Earth had not asked for a crown. Earth had not asked Veyrra to kneel. Earth had not sent a warship to force a monument into stone. Earth had sent an architect with a case, a list, and the stubborn belief that the dead should not have to earn permission to be remembered. At the end of the ceremony, Seren walked once along the basin wall. Tessa Ward, Caleb Rusk, Mina Shore, Owen Pike, and all the others. She read each name silently, not because silence was enough, but because today other voices had carried them aloud. At the far end of the wall, under the last line of names, the final inscription had been carved in simple Earth English and Veyrran script. They held the system until the living could leave. Seren touched the stone once. Then she stepped away, leaving the water to speak in the place where the record had broken, and where the truth had finally been allowed to remain. And that is why Earth never asked the galaxy for a throne. It asked for something smaller. A wall, a stream of clean water, and the names of ordinary people who stayed behind when power stepped away. Because sometimes a civilization is not remembered by the flags it raises or the wars it wins. Sometimes it is remembered by the names it refuses to erase. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like the video. Share it with someone who enjoys meaningful science fiction. And subscribe to the channel for more stories about Earth, humanity, and the choices that define us among the stars. Your support helps these stories reach more listeners. It also helps this channel keep bringing thoughtful science fiction to people who still believe stories can carry meaning. Thank you for spending your time here. Until the next story, remember this. The truth does not need to be loud to survive. Sometimes, it only needs one person brave enough to say the names.